Imagine waking up in the dead of winter, your breath visible in the air, and no furnace humming in the background, no central heating, no thermostat to crank up, just you, the freezing temperatures, and whatever survival instincts you've got. Sounds brutal, right? Well, what if I told you that the Amish have been thriving, not just surviving, without modern heating for centuries? And no, I'm not talking about shivering in layers or hugging a space heater for dear life. There are real, tested methods that can keep you warm, even in the most unforgiving winters. And the best part? Some of these tricks are so ingenious that they put modern heating systems to shame. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll have the skills to outsmart the cold without relying on a furnace. Harnessing heat. Like the Amish. The Amish don't rely on gas-guzzling furnaces, yet they stay warm and cozy throughout the winter. How? Masonry heaters. These aren't your average fireplaces. A single fire burns hot and fast inside a massive stone or brick structure. And then, like magic, it radiates heat for hours after the fire has gone out. It's basically a giant thermal battery sitting in the middle of the house. If you've got a wood stove, you can mimic this by stacking bricks or stones nearby to absorb and slowly release heat. Not cheap, effective, and borderline genius. But that's just the beginning. Another Amish trick? Strategic layering. Not just on their bodies, but in their homes. Heavy curtains act as insulation, trapping warmth where it's needed most. Rugs and thick tapestries on walls, they're not just for show. They stop drafts dead in their tracks. Ever wonder why old castles had giant tapestries hanging everywhere? Same principle. Let's talk about body heat, because the Amish maximize that too. They sleep under layers of hand-stitched quilts made of wool, one of the best natural insulators out there. And they don't just pile on blankets randomly, there's a system. Lighter layers go underneath, heavier ones on top, trapping warm air without creating a sweaty mess. It's like insulation for your bed. Genius, right? Last but not least, let's talk about airflow. It might sound counterintuitive, but the Amish make sure their homes are well ventilated. Why? Because stale, damp air makes a house feel colder. By keeping air circulating and allowing moisture to escape, they prevent that dreaded bone-chilling dampness that makes winter feel unbearable. It's all about balance, trapping heat while letting excess moisture out. So whether it's using the power of thermal mass, mastering the art of layering, or eating the right foods, the Amish have winter survival down to a science. And the best part? Most of these tricks cost little to nothing to implement. Stay warm, stay smart, and let's beat the cold. Amish style. The secret to heat-trapping insulation. Forget overpriced fiberglass insulation. Let's talk about old-school natural materials that trap heat like a pro. The Amish use sheep's wool and even corn cobs to insulate their homes. Sounds crazy? Wool is one of the best natural insulators out there. It doesn't just trap heat, it also wicks away moisture, keeping everything warm and dry. And corn cobs? They create tiny air pockets that act as insulation, making walls significantly warmer. If you don't have access to these, thick rugs, heavy curtains, and even straw bales can work wonders for keeping heat inside. Bonus tip: bubble wrap on windows. Sounds silly, but it's a DIY double pane effect that cuts heat loss dramatically. But that's not all. Consider using layered fabrics on walls and doors. Heavy tapestries or blankets can add an extra thermal barrier, preventing drafts from creeping in. The Amish also make use of densely packed hay or shredded newspaper between walls to reinforce insulation. If you're looking for an easy fix, door draft stoppers, homemade or store-bought, will block that chilly air from sneaking in under doors. And let's not forget the power of a well-placed bookcase or a thick curtain in front of a door. Both can act as surprising yet effective insulation tools. Another underappreciated trick: Thermal mass furniture. If you have a big wooden table, a heavy couch, or thick bookshelves, position them along exterior walls to help retain heat. Wood and dense materials store warmth and radiate it back into the room over time. Likewise, heating pads placed under area rugs will keep feet toasty while subtly adding warmth to the room. And here's a game changer: reflective insulation. Aluminum foil or emergency blankets taped to the backs of curtains can reflect heat back into the room instead of letting it escape through windows. It's cheap, effective, and barely noticeable. Speaking of windows, don't forget to use them strategically. Open curtains during sunny hours to let in warmth and close them up tight at dusk to trap the heat inside. If you really want to go the extra mile, consider an indoor tent setup. It might sound unconventional, but setting up a small tent inside a room can trap body heat, creating a microclimate that stays significantly warmer than the surrounding space. This is a favorite trick among campers who brave the cold, and it works just as well indoors. The key is layering. Use multiple levels of insulation, from rugs and curtains to thick blankets and wall coverings, to keep that precious warmth right where you need it. Bedding built for warmth. The Amish understand that staying warm at night isn't just about stacking blankets, it's about strategy. They layer wool blankets and handmade quilts in a way that traps body heat while allowing airflow, preventing overheating. Wool is their go-to because it naturally regulates temperature, keeping you toasty without making you sweat. Unlike synthetic fabrics, which can feel damp and trap moisture, wool stays warm even when slightly wet, perfect for cold winter nights. But warmth doesn't just come from above. It's just as important to insulate from below. The Amish often use wool mattress pads or thick straw-stuffed mattresses, creating a barrier between their bodies and the cold air rising from the floor. If you're looking for a modern alternative, try layering blankets or even a foam camping pad under your fitted sheet to add insulation and keep that chill from creeping up through the bed frame. And let's talk about a seriously underrated Amish trick: heated bricks or stones. Before bed, they place bricks by the fire, wrap them in cloth, and tuck them near their feet to radiate heat for hours. If you don't have a fireplace, you can recreate this effect with a hot water bottle or a microwaved rice-filled sock. It's a simple, fuel-free way to keep warm all night long. Another Amish-approved method: the art of the enclosed sleeping space. Canopy beds with thick curtains are more than just a vintage aesthetic. They're practical heat-trapping zones. The Amish sometimes hang thick fabric around their beds to create a mini heat capsule, shielding themselves from cold drafts. If you don't have a canopy bed, hanging blankets around your bed, or even tacking up a sheet to block cold air can work wonders. And let's not forget the power of layering clothes. The Amish wear long wool pajamas, sometimes even adding extra layers like thermal leggings or knee-high wool socks. The trick isn't just to pile on clothing, it's to trap heat while allowing breathability. Cotton absorbs moisture and can make you feel colder, but wool, silk, and fleece work together to keep your core warm. If you tend to wake up freezing, try wearing a hat or hood to bed. Most body heat escapes from your head, and even a lightweight beanie can make a big difference. For families, the Amish embrace the old-fashioned but effective method of group warmth. Kids often share beds, and families sometimes sleep closer together during the coldest months to conserve heat. If you've got a pet, letting them sleep at your feet is another natural way to add warmth to your sleeping space. Finally, positioning your bed strategically can make or break your winter sleep experience. The Amish keep their sleeping areas away from drafty windows and exterior walls, placing beds in the warmest parts of the home. If moving your bed isn't an option, rolling up towels or placing a thick curtain against the window can block icy air and make a noticeable difference. With these time-tested techniques, you'll stay warm all winter long, no furnace required. Sunlight, the free heater. You're not using right. Most people think of the sun as something that disappears in winter, leaving nothing but icy winds and freezing temperatures. But the Amish know better. They see the sun as a powerful free heat source, even on the coldest days. It's all about capturing and holding on to every bit of warmth it provides. One of their simplest yet most effective tricks? Timing is everything. They make it a habit to throw open every curtain and blind as soon as the sun rises. Even on cloudy days, natural light still brings in warmth. Then, as soon as the sun dips below the horizon, they lock that heat in by pulling heavy drapes, shutting wooden shutters, or even hanging extra blankets over windows. This keeps the warmth from escaping and stops the cold night air from creeping in. But there's more to it than just opening and closing curtains. Ever noticed how a black car gets scorching hot in the sun, even in winter? The Amish use that same principle in their homes. They place dark-colored rugs, blankets, or even pieces of black painted metal near windows to soak up the sunlight. These objects act like mini radiators, slowly releasing heat even after the sun has set. If you want to take it a step further, placing bricks or thick stone slabs near windows can create an even bigger heat bank that keeps rooms cozy longer. And let's not forget about mirrors. The Amish may not use electricity, but they do understand how to bounce light and warmth where they need it. By positioning mirrors or reflective surfaces to redirect sunlight deeper into a room, they maximize every last bit of available heat. If you have a sunlit wall that doesn't get much use, hanging a mirror to reflect light into the main living space can make a surprising difference. For those who really want to get creative, homemade solar heat collectors are another Amish-inspired trick. A simple DIY version involves placing a dark-colored metal sheet behind a sunny window with a gap at the top and bottom to allow airflow. As the metal absorbs heat, it warms the air, which then rises and circulates into the room. It's a completely passive way to generate heat. No plugs, no wires, just pure solar energy doing its thing. The Amish also understand that heat rises, which is why they use thick tapestries or cloth hangings on walls to help trap warmth at lower levels. If you've ever walked into an old church or castle with giant stone walls, you know how cold they can feel. But when you add fabric to the walls, instant insulation. If you have bare walls that always feel cold, try hanging thick blankets or decorative rugs to add an extra layer of warmth. And here's a trick you might not expect: greenhouses and sunrooms. Even in freezing weather, a well-placed greenhouse or enclosed porch can act as a heat buffer for the rest of the house. During the day, it soaks up warmth like a thermal sponge, and at night, opening a door or window between the greenhouse and the main house can release some of that trapped heat indoors. Bottom line, the sun is your best friend in winter. You just have to know how to work with it. The Amish have mastered the art of solar heat capture without fancy gadgets or expensive upgrades, proving that sometimes the simplest methods are the most effective. Heating your body, not just your house. Most people crank up the thermostat the second they feel a chill, but the Amish have a different approach. Heat the body, not the house. It's all about working with your body's natural warmth, instead of wasting energy trying to heat every inch of space. Let's start with layering, because if you get this wrong, no amount of heat will save you. The Amish are all about wool, but not just any wool. They go for loose, breathable layers that trap pockets of warm air. Think of it like insulation for your body. Tight clothing might seem like it would keep you warmer, but it actually does the opposite. It restricts blood flow, making it harder for your body to circulate heat. If you've ever worn skinny jeans in the winter and wondered why you were freezing, now you know why. And don't just throw on a big coat and call it a day. The trick is layering in the right order. Start with a moisture-wicking base layer to keep sweat from making you damp. Add an insulating wool or fleece layer to trap heat. and top it off with a windproof outer layer to block the cold air. This system works whether you're outside chopping firewood or just sitting inside reading a book. Now let's talk about keeping your core warm from the inside out. Hot drinks are an Amish winter staple, but there's a catch. You don't want them too hot. A steaming cup of tea or broth raises your core temperature, but if it's scorching hot, your body starts sweating to cool you down, which backfires in the long run. The goal is steady, lasting warmth, not a temporary heat wave followed by a chill. And here's something most people don't think about. Your feet control a lot of your body's overall warmth. If your feet are cold, you're going to feel cold no matter how many layers you wear. That's why the Amish never go barefoot in winter, not even inside. Thick wool socks are a must, and slippers add an extra barrier between your feet and cold floors. Want to take it a step further? Heat up a couple of smooth stones by the fire, wrap them in a towel, and place them near your feet when you're sitting down. It's an instant foot warmer, old school, but ridiculously effective. Then there's the power of movement. If you sit still too long in a chilly room, you'll feel the cold creeping in. The Amish stay warm by keeping active, even indoors. A few quick stretches, some light chores, or even clapping your hands together and rubbing them fast can get your blood pumping and warm you up. And let's not forget about food. The right meals can make a huge difference in how warm you feel. The Amish eat hearty, calorie-dense meals in winter because digesting food generates heat. Soups, stews, and whole grains give your body the fuel it needs to keep you warm from the inside out. If you're shivering, try eating something warm and filling. It's like throwing another log on your body's internal fire. Unconventional heat sources that work wonders. When it comes to staying warm without cranking up the heat, thinking outside the box is the key. The Amish don't just rely on a single heating method. They combine multiple unconventional tricks to maximize warmth without wasting energy. One of their most underrated hacks? Harnessing the power of candles. Now, a single candle won't heat a whole room, but pair a few with an inverted terracotta pot, and you've got yourself a mini radiant heater. The clay absorbs the heat from the candles and slowly releases it, warming up small spaces without using electricity. It's not going to turn your living room into a sauna, but if you're curled up in a reading nook or working at a desk, it makes a noticeable difference. And while we're talking about radiant heat, let's not forget about the good old-fashioned hot water bottle. The Amish use heated bricks or stones wrapped in cloth, but if you've got a rubber hot water bottle, fill it up before bed and tuck it under your blankets. It'll stay warm for hours, keeping you cozy through the night. Some people even place them near their core or feet while sitting on the couch, like a personal heating system, but without the high energy bill. Now here's something that might surprise you. Body heat is one of the most reliable and consistent heat sources. The Amish know this well, which is why they often gather in one heated room instead of trying to warm up an entire house. The more people in a space, the warmer it gets. If you live with family or roommates, spending time together in one area isn't just great for bonding. It also helps conserve warmth. But what if you're alone? There's still a way to hack this. Wearing a thick wool poncho or shawl is a game changer. Unlike a blanket, which you have to constantly adjust, a poncho moves with you, trapping heat while allowing free movement. It's like walking around wrapped in a personal cocoon of warmth. Bonus points if it's made of wool, because wool naturally insulates while wicking away moisture, preventing that cold, clammy feeling that comes from overheating under synthetic fabrics. And let's not forget about insulation from the ground up. Cold floors suck the warmth right out of a room, which is why the Amish use thick rugs and layered mats to create a barrier between their feet and the freezing ground. If you don't have carpeting, throwing down a few extra blankets or even cardboard can make a noticeable difference in heat retention. Another unexpected heat source? Cooking. The Amish often use wood-burning stoves, which double as both a cooking appliance and a heat source. But even if you don't have one, baking or simmering a big pot of soup on the stovetop releases warmth into the room. Leave the oven door open after baking, once it's turned off, of course, and let that residual heat do some extra work. By layering these unconventional heat sources together, you can turn even the chilliest winter nights into a cozy, furnace-free haven, identifying and eliminating heat leaks. Heat leaks are sneaky. They rob you of warmth without you even realizing it. No matter how many layers you wear or how much heat you generate, if that precious warmth is slipping away, you're fighting a losing battle. The Amish have mastered the art of heat retention, and their solutions are both simple and effective. First, let's talk about draft detection. You don't need fancy tools, just a candle, a stick of incense, or even a thin piece of tissue paper. Slowly move it around doors, windows, and vents. If the flame flickers or the smoke shifts, you've got an air leak. These small gaps might not seem like much, but they can drain heat faster than you'd think. So what's the fix? The Amish rely on natural DIY solutions. Rolled up towels or thick blankets stuffed against door gaps make a quick and easy draft stopper. Got a bigger gap? Use an old wool sweater, cut it into strips, and stuff it into cracks. For windows, heavy curtains are a must. But here's the trick: layering. A sheer curtain traps sunlight during the day, while a thicker one seals in warmth at night. If you don't have thick curtains, hanging up extra blankets or even bubble wrap can work surprisingly well. Now let's talk about floors. Cold air loves to sneak in from below, making your feet ice blocks before you even realize it. The Amish combat this with layered rugs. But if you don't have those on hand, cardboard or even a few layers of newspapers underfoot can create an extra barrier between you and the freezing floor. If you have extra blankets, lay them down where you walk most often. Your feet will thank you. Another unexpected heat thief? Electrical outlets and switch plates. Yep, those tiny gaps around them leak air. A simple fix is foam insulation pads. But if you need a quick hack, tape a piece of fabric or thick paper over them for an instant improvement. Doors are another weak spot. The Amish ensure their doors fit tightly, but if yours has gaps, grab some weather stripping or, in a pinch, attach a thick layer of fabric to the inside of the door to block the draft. And if you've got an old-fashioned keyhole, cover it with tape or a small piece of cloth. It's a surprisingly overlooked spot where cold air sneaks in. Attics and basements are two more major culprits. Warm air rises, and if your attic isn't insulated properly, all that heat is escaping. The Amish sometimes use straw bales or even wool blankets to line attic spaces, preventing heat from vanishing into thin air. If you can't fully insulate, try laying thick blankets over attic doors or adding extra layers around basement windows. One last Amish trick: doorway curtains. Hanging a thick curtain over doorways, especially those leading to less used rooms, helps keep warmth where you need it most. The smaller the space, the easier it is to keep warm. By patching up these sneaky heat leaks, you're not just keeping warm, you're making every ounce of heat you generate actually work for you. No furnace? No problem. Warm air isn't leaving your home without a fight. So could you survive winter without a furnace? The Amish do it every single year using these techniques, and now you can too. Whether it's masonry heaters, smart insulation, bedding tricks, or unconventional heat sources, there are countless ways to stay warm without relying on modern heating. If you've made it this far, I challenge you to try at least one of these methods this winter and see the difference for yourself. Let me know in the comments which trick you're going to try first. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Survival and self-sufficiency tips. Stay warm, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next one.